Hey everyone, it's Shannon with Sparkle and Shine Health and Fitness, and I'm excited to share with you today the next in my Germ Buster series. And today I wanted to share with you a little bit about measles. And I know most of you think, measles, really? Why would you talk about measles, right? That's a thing of the past. That's something that my grandpa or my great-grandpa got, but I would never get measles. Well, that's partly true because the numbers of measles cases are down significantly because of the MMR vaccine and the majority of people getting vaccinated now. But not everybody gets their vaccines. Not everybody maybe starts a series and doesn't finish it because you need 2 of them. People travel in the United States that maybe haven't had vaccines, so there's still circulations of it. And the reason I thought it was interesting to talk about it today was because there's been a recent exposure here in Nebraska. About 10 to 12 days ago, I don't know if you guys saw in the news, in Omaha, Nebraska, there was a person that flew into Omaha that had measles. And because they flew on an airplane, there was quite a few other people that were exposed to it. They traveled all throughout the airport, and so everybody throughout the airport was exposed to measles. Then the person went to their hotel room, and then they must have figured out maybe they had symptoms, they were getting sick, so then they went to an urgent care center, then they went to a hospital. So all the people in all these areas were exposed. Now, if you've had your MMR vaccine, it's not a big deal, right? Because you're protected, but you're only 97% protected. If you receive 2 doses of MMR vaccine, you have a 90% chance of not getting the measles if you're exposed to them. So luckily, probably the majority of those people that were exposed to this person in the Omaha airport or in he or she's travels throughout Omaha probably didn't get it, but there's that great chance that they could have if their vaccines weren't up to date, right? So that's when I wanted to talk a little bit about measles, because there still are those exposures, there's still those outbreaks that happen, and it kind of scares people because it's not real common. It's not something we see a lot of anymore. So that's why I wanted to talk to you about it today. So let's first talk about what some of the symptoms of measles are. Usually it starts with a high fever, like 104-degree temp. Then you start to get a cough, a runny nose, you get red eyes, and you just get really sick. Then you start in with the rash, and in your throat, in the back of your throat, is one of the spots where you start with a rash, and then you start breaking out throughout your body. On my blog, I'm going to post some pictures so you guys can kind of see what those look like. And it usually starts from the head and works down, so it's kind of weird in that fact. It is spread through the air from an infected person. So when, say I had measles, me coughing or sneezing, I'm spreading it to everybody around me through the air. And those air particles, for like 2 hours after I've coughed in this area and spread it, somebody else coming into contact in that area with those air droplets can also get sick for up to 2 hours. So it's kind of a crazy incubation period there. You usually start to get the symptoms 7 to 14 days after you've been exposed. So these people that were around this person in Omaha, it was like 12 to 15 days ago, they've probably started to break out with signs and symptoms if they were exposed and are going to come down with it. Okay, and if you are, it's really contagious, and so if say I came in contact with that person and I hadn't had my MMR vaccines, there's a 90% chance that I would come down with measles. So that's how contagious it is. So I know it's not real common, but when you hear about these exposures and these outbreaks, that's why it spreads so quickly, because it is so contagious. So hopefully most people have received their MMR vaccines. So the important thing is, like I said with about everything, stay hydrated. That high temp, you can get dehydrated quickly. It's a virus, and so it has to run its course, but the important thing is the treatment. You have to check your vaccination status. Have you had 2 MMR vaccines? Have those around you, your kids have both of your vaccines, or maybe did some, you start with one and accidentally forgot to get the second one, so it's a great time to check your vaccination status. And then there's this age frame where they started actually giving the vaccine. So anybody born 1963 or before may not have had the vaccine because there's a high probability that they actually had measles as a kid. So it's really important if you're in that age group to know you did have measles as a kid. If not, you should be checking to see if you had the MMR vaccine, or maybe you should be getting vaccinated if there is an absolute fact that you did not have measles as a kid. So that's another kind of interesting twist on it that you have to check into if you're in that age group. There is a blood draw they can do, a titer, to check and see what your immunity status is. It's fairly expensive, and so I think at this point, with most cases, the CDC have just recommended just giving the 2 MMR vaccines instead of doing the titer, and then you're not covered, and then you have to get still 2 shots on top of it. And that's especially if you've been exposed, that they just recommend that you get those up to date. At this point in time, they are not actually recommending a booster, but I foresee maybe in the future that that's something they might do, because as you guys know, like with the tetanus shot, and we might talk about that another day, they were just doing routine tetanus shots every 10 years. And then we had this big outbreak of whooping cough. And so then everybody was supposed to get vaccinated with tetanus with Adacillin to cover the whooping cough. And right now, then you go back to your regular routine schedule with tetanus. So a lot of these vaccines, they're showing wear off, especially like in healthcare workers. A lot of times we have titers checks, and that's where we actually realize, oh, I've had 2 MMR vaccines, but my immunity has wore off. And so it's definitely a great thing to visit with your doctor about. And I really appreciated all of you jumping on today and listening to my little informational session on measles. I thought it was really interesting with that recent outbreak in Omaha. So everybody have a great weekend, and I will see you later.